This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, welcome everyone. This will be our last segment on the Germany part of the trip, as some of us were not zocheh to be at the whole Germany segment. So we welcome those who are joining us for the Uman Mezhbish portion. But we're going to give you a little bit of a summary, a little bit of a condensed summary of some of the important issues. And the issue we're going to speak about now is something we have not touched upon before. And the reason for that, before I continue, first we want to welcome, even though he's been with us for 2 days, Moshe Portnoy, who is the orchestrator and took care of all the logistics of the trip. Baruch Hashem, I had the schus to work with Moshe many times in the past, but now we're taking it to a new level. And until now, Baruch Hashem, all the arrangements have been La'ela, Mahadran Min HaMahadran, and we look forward to another couple of amazing days together. So I had in mind that even though there are a number of important issues that it's worthwhile to be aware of, especially regarding Rabbi Eibeshutz or Yaakov Emden, but I didn't want to speak about it at the kever for obvious reasons. I didn't think it was the appropriate makom at the kever to speak about anything controversial or anything that could be perhaps looked upon as infringing on their kavod, and I didn't want to speak about it before we went there, but after we went there, I think it's something that's kedai to know about it, and that is one of the fiercest controversies in the history of Klal Yisrael is really the machlokes Rabbi Yaakov Emden and Rabbi Eibeshutz. Where Rabbi Yaakov Emden detected in some of the writings of Rabbi Yonasan, and specifically in some of the kameos that he distributed, what Rabbi Yaakov Emden considered leanings and inclinations toward the belief in the false Messiah, the Shabtai Tzvi. And Rabbi Yaakov Emden, as we know, had a printing press in his home, and he was very outspoken, and he was a very clear and compelling writer, and he took no prisoners. And he wrote out and spoke out against Rabbi Eibeshutz and accused him, among many, many things, of being a closet believer in the Shabtai Tzvi. Now, Rabbi Yaakov Emden was not alone in his suspicions. As we know, the Pnei Yeshua supported the viewpoint of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, and in fact, the Pnei Yeshua also wrote adamantly, vehemently, that Rabbi Eibeshutz needs to be deposed and removed as the Rav of Prague. So that was the position of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, that was the position of the Pnei Yeshua, and that was the position of Rabbi Yaakov Emden's brother-in-law, Rabbi Aryeh HaKoyen ben Shaul of Amsterdam. And what we would like to present, just very briefly, is what do you do with a rabbi? And this could happen in the 1700s, in the 18th century, and this could happen today, that there are strong suspicions about their personal beliefs, where there are questions. Is this Rav? Yes, on the outside, he seems to be going through the motions, and he seems to be living a frum life. But what if there's legitimate suspicion that beliboy, in his heart and his mind, there's some questionable beliefs? What do we do with this Rav? On the one hand, if you take down this Rav, you're basically taking down the whole institution of Rabbanos in general. You're in people's minds, you're questioning the position of the Rav. You're demeaning the honor and the prestige of the Rabbanos in general. And if people have questions on Rabbanim, so people will have questions on the religion, and ultimately this is really creating a fault in the foundation of Yiddishkeit. On the other hand, what's the choice? What's the Eitzah? You have no breira. You're going to leave this Rav in position. Well, if in fact he has incorrect beliefs and philosophies, then he's in a position to lead, to be machdi others. So this was a very sensitive dilemma, and is a very sensitive dilemma at Hayom. So the Noid Yehuda, Cheskel Landau, who was the Rav in Prague, had a very strategic viewpoint of this. Again, I mentioned before, Rabbi Eibeshutz is the Rav in Kilos Ehu, Altona, Hamburgh, and Wandsbek. And Rabbi Cheskel Landau had a very politically savvy approach what to do with Rabbi Eibeshutz. It is clear that the Noid Yehuda was not willing to acquit Rabbi Eibeshutz. Actually, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz himself sent a letter to the Gra. Defend me, help me out here against the onslaught of people who are trying to slander me. And the Gra, as a young man, very cleverly said, Kvoidabim kaimai munach, that you're Gadol Hagdoilim, and who's greater than you, and Kal Mitzvahs HaTorah. But the Gra said, I'm a young man, and it's not wise for me to stick my neck out and to get involved between Rabbanim. So the Gra was not willing to defend Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. But he did so in a way where he would just, in a humble way, in an anivistic way, where the Gra was basically saying he's not really roy to stick his neck into the fold. The Noda B'Yehuda took the following approach. He felt he can't take down Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. As we mentioned, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz was the premier Marbitz Torah in the time. He had literally thousands of Talmidim. Come out, all the Rabbanim in Europe were his Talmidim. You take down Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, you call it a day, basically. That's the end of Yiddishkeit as we know it. So Noda B'Yehuda, despite the fact that he may have had very strong suspicions, nevertheless said, look, we're going to nip it in the bud. We're going to issue a ruling that Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz cannot issue any kameas. We're going to say that Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz cannot write or reference or invoke any even insinuation of connection to the Shabtai Tzvi. Now once Rabbi Yonasan stops giving the kameas and stops mentioning these ideas, so now all we're left with is a man that we don't know what's doing in the inner sanctums of his heart. Is he fully a mammon, or does he still have some kind of vestige of belief in the Shabbat? You know what? That we'll never know, and that's none of our business. That's between him and the Rebbeinu Shalom. But for us, based on suspicion, to take down Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, the Noda B'Yehuda, again, I'm not telling you my opinion, and as far as we're concerned, we have no right to stick our neck into this. I'm telling you what the Noda B'Yehuda held. The Noda B'Yehuda held strategically, the only thing we could do is stop whatever trouble practices, any questionable behavior. We're going to just nip it in the bud. We're going to say he can't issue the kameos, he cannot insinuate any kind of inclination toward the Shabtai Tzvi, and the rest is between him and God. And the Pnei Yeshua was upset with the Noda B'Yehuda. Pnei Yeshua was not happy with the Noda B'Yehuda. But what's interesting, as we mentioned, who was maspid the Pnei Yeshua when the Pnei Yeshua was nifter? Noda B'Yehuda. Even though the Pnei Yeshua issued in his tzava that nobody could be maspid him, we mentioned from the Pesachei Tshuva that the Noda B'Yehuda paskin, that the Pnei Yeshua is the Rabban shall call Yisrael, and therefore Noda B'Yehuda was maspid the Pnei Yeshua. But the Pnei Yeshua was not happy that the Noda B'Yehuda was not willing to issue a definite proclamation to depose Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. Ultimately, this caused the Pnei Yeshua to lose his job. Pnei Yeshua was the Rav in Frankfurt, and the Pnei Yeshua had to leave. Because in Frankfurt, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz had tremendous support. Moreover, who used to be the Rav in Prague before the Noda B'Yehuda? Rav David Oppenheim. Now, Rav David Oppenheim, who, by the way, had one of the all-time greatest libraries, on his deathbed, Rav David Oppenheim said, Reb Meir, Reb Meir, Reb Meir, and then he died. So people thought what he meant was that the next Rav of Prague has to be someone by the name of Reb Meir. And they couldn't find anyone named Reb Meir to be the next Rav in Prague. So basically, Prague was vacant. Until the Noda B'Yehuda came along, and Noda B'Yehuda said, you know what Reb David Oppenheim meant, Reb Meir, Reb Meir? The Chevra Kadisha came to Reb David Oppenheim, as if Reb David Oppenheim is about to leave this world. So Reb David Oppenheim meant, Reb Meir is choshesh for the miyut. So just because I look like I'm a goyses, maybe I'm going to survive. What are you coming with the Chevra Kadisha already? So he said, oh, maybe Taka, that's what he meant. And the Noda B'Yehuda got the job. Before the Noda B'Yehuda got the job, Rabbi Aryeh HaKohen of Amsterdam, the brother of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, applied to be the Rav of Prague. He was offered the job, but as soon as he came out against Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, they rescinded the offer. So Rabbi Aryeh HaKohen lost the job in Prague. Pnei Yeshua lost the job in Frankfurt. This just goes to show what kind of tremendous support Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz had. And the Noda B'Yehuda, yes, if he's going to come out against Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, he's jeopardizing his rabbinic career. many great Rabbanim lost their jobs for speaking out against Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. So Rabbi Yehuda strategically, politically, realized you can't take down Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. You could stop him from the Kameos, you could stop him from writing about certain things, but to take him down, it's going to be a danger to Klal Yisrael, it's going to be a danger to him personally. On the other hand, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, the Pnei Yeshua, they put it all on the line. They felt that this was a grave danger to the Jewish people to have one of the premier mashbiim in Klal Yisrael have what they felt was this connection to the Shabtai Tzvi. But what's remarkable is when Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz wanted to come to the city of Prague, there is evidence that the Rabbi Yehuda wrote a letter to Maria Theresa not to allow Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz into Prague. In fact, if you look in the Drushay Hatzlach, the drashas of the Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda gave a hesped upon the demise of Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. But in the lashon of the hesped, the Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it's correct. It's the right thing to do to give a hesped for Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. Now, what does that sound like to you? Would anybody ever have to justify giving a hesped for Adam Gadol? You ever hear somebody, by the Gadol Hadar passes away, and another Gadol gets up to speak at the Vaya? You know, it's the right thing to do to give. So, why does the Rabbi Yehuda have to give a justification? So that would also indicate that, in fact, there was some level of suspicion, unless because the Rabbi Yehuda had not wanted Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz back into Prague, he perhaps felt it would be inappropriate for him to give a hesped. Actually, the story goes that the night of the P'tira of Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz, his wife, the Rabbi Yehuda's wife, asked him, "No, are you going to be masped Rabbi Yonasan tomorrow?" He said, "No way." And his wife said, "Oh, really?" So she calls the Gabbai. She tells the Gabbai, "Announce tomorrow in Prague, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz will be giving a hesped for the Rabbi Yehuda is going to give a hesped for Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz." So the Shamash is running around the city announcing that tomorrow the Rabbi Yehuda is going to be masped Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. And the Rabbi Yehuda heard this, so he asked he asked the Shamash, "What's going on?" He said, "That's what your wife told me." So he goes to his wife. His wife said, "I told you you're going to be masped him tomorrow." Anyway, these are some of the details. Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz had a son. The son proclaimed himself the prophet of the Shabtai Tzvi. In fact, there are letters that the Rabbi Yehuda sent message to his Talmidim to get out of the yeshiva as soon as possible. And then he sent letters to Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshutz. "What's going on with your son?" Rabbi Yonasan said, "What could I do? My son has been taken over by a spirit, and it doesn't seem like a good one." So, how do we view this whole machlokes? Is there a smoking gun over here? The Rabbi Yehuda seemed to have thought so. The Pnei Yeshua definitely held that way. Rabbi Yaakov of Amsterdam definitely held that way. So how should we view this? So there's a story at the end of Masechta Horayos. The Gemara talks about Rav Shimon Gamliel. And Rav Shimon Gamliel was a Nasi, and when he would walk into the Beis Medrash, everyone would stand up. And Rav Meir was the second in command. Rav Meir was the Av Beis Din. And when he would come in, they would stand up a little bit less. And Rav Nassan would come in, and they would stand up even a little bit less. And Rav Shimon Gamliel said, "What's going on? There can't be any assistant rabbis over here." So he made a decree, they only stand up for me, and they don't stand up for Rav Meir and Rav Nassan. And Rav Meir and Rav Nassan, they didn't like that. So they wanted to get back at Rav Shimon Gamliel. So the Gemara says, they knew Rav Shimon Gamliel didn't know Uktzin. So they said, tomorrow Rav Shimon Gamliel is going to come to the Beis Medrash, and we're going to give him a Faher and Uktzin, and he's not going to know anything, and we're going to depose him. That night, Rav Shimon Gamliel had the Siyata D'Shmaya to have found out about this, and he chazed the whole Uktzin. So the next day, when they said, "Nu Zogibur, say over Uktzin," he said it like nobody's business. Whereupon he said, "Rav Meir, Rav Nassan, you try to get me? You're out of here. Get out of the Beis Medrash." and he renamed Reb Meir Acherim, and he renamed Reb Nosson the Yeshoimrim. And they were on the outside, and he was on the inside, but they were the real Chacham, so that whenever they had a Shaila, they threw the Tzetel outside, and they answered. So the Talmidim said, what's going on? Torah is on the outside, what are we doing on the inside? They let them back in the Beis Medrash. Generations pass. Rabbi, the son of Shem Gamliel, is learning with his children, and he says over Svara Reb Meir Acherim Oimrim. So his son says, what's going on over here? Who is this Acherim that we could say their Torah and we can't say their name? So he said, these are people who try to uproot the covet of our family. So he says, you can't have it two ways, the son says. If their Torah is good, then we should be able to say their names. And he quotes a pasuk. Gam ahavasam, gam simnasam is already over batal. The Marsha explains. Sunday we're going to be at the care of the Marsha. Marsha says like this, a very fundamental Marsha. Marsha says sometimes you could have chachamim, and they could argue, and they're basar v'dam, and maybe in their minds some type of shaloi l'shem shamayim or personal agenda got into the machlokes. But that's when it happened. But after it happened, in the next generation, looking back at it, the machlokes is over. It's not kedai to kri charayin and what's going on. What did this one hold? What did that one hold? Was it l'shem shamayim? Was it not l'shem shamayim? Looking back in the machlokes in hindsight, we have to ask ourselves one question: who orchestrated the machlokes? Rav Shem Gamliel and Reb Meir, Rabbi Eibeshutz, they orchestrated it, or there's a Borei Olam, there's a Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom made it that they should have a machlokes. What they were thinking is irrelevant. We shouldn't even think about it anymore. The way we should view a machlokes is the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted them to argue, and that was the hashgacha, and the Rebbeinu Shalom made them argue. And it's not kedai to kri charayin. Did somebody have a personal agenda? Was there feelings of animosity? The Rebbeinu Shalom made two gedolei olam, two tzaddikim fight. Why? Kach goes our haborei. That's the Rebbeinu Shalom's cheshbonos. So in 2019, the same way we view it, that Reb Meir and Reb Nosson had machlokes l'shem shamayim, Rabbi Eibeshutz had machlokes l'shem shamayim. Really? That's what happened? You're rewriting history. You're supposed to rewrite history. It's not. You don't have to view history from the perspective of reality. The reality of the way we should view it is, at the end of the day, the Rebbeinu Shalom is Masaved Kol HaSivos. Rebbeinu Shalom orchestrated events. He wanted there to be machlokes. There's a frightening thing printed in the newer editions of the Yaros Davash, that a Talmud of the Chassam Sofer said, that the Chassam Sofer would say over, that in his generation of Rabbi Eibeshutz, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, Chacham Tzvi, Vilna Gaon, Pnei Hoshua, Shev Yaakov, all these great Gedolim, Nosson Adler, the Haflo, all these great Gedolim that we learned about. Chassam Sofer said there was never a generation in the history of the Jewish people that had so many Chachamim as that generation, and if not for machlokes, Mashiach would have come. Says the Chassam Sofer, not since the Dor Deah did we have such a collection of high caliber Gedolim as that generation. But the Rebbeinu Shalom felt the time had not come. But in terms of viewing that period in history, Gam ahavasam, Gam sinasam, the machlokes is over, and we view it. This was the sibois of the Das Elyon of the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. And with this concludes this chapter of our Nesiya Kedosha. And Be'ezus Hashem, we now move on to the segment of the Ukraine. B'siyata d'shmaya. Thank you so much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.